What if the greatest hero in the universe failed to protect those he loved most? What if the man who had saved countless worlds couldn't save his own family? This is the story of how Son Goku, the legendary Super Saiyan, lost everything. In our world, the story of Dragon Ball follows a path many of you know well. After the Cell games, Goku made the noble choice to remain dead, believing his presence on Earth attracted too many dangers. He watched from Otherworld as his son Gohan grew stronger, as his youngest child Goten was born, as life continued without him. 7 years passed before the threat of Majin Buu brought him back to the world of the living, where he was reunited with his family and friends. But there exists another timeline, a darker path where fate was not so kind. This is the story of that world, a world where one moment, one decision changed everything. Our story begins in that peaceful time after the defeat of Cell. Earth had finally known peace for several years. Gohan had grown into a powerful young man, honoring his father's legacy while forging his own path. Chi-Chi had given birth to Goten, who grew to be the spitting image of his father. And throughout the cosmos, the legend of the Super Saiyan who defeated Frieza and sacrificed himself to save Earth from Cell continued to spread. But not all who heard this legend felt admiration. In the farthest reaches of the universe, beyond even the watchful eyes of the Supreme Kai, something ancient stirred, a being of immense power and unfathomable hatred, the sole survivor of a civilization that had been destroyed by the original Saiyan warriors thousands of years ago, long before even Frieza's time. This entity had spent millennia gathering power, consuming the energy of dying stars and collapsed planets, all with a single purpose: vengeance against the Saiyan race. It had waited patiently as Frieza nearly wiped out the Saiyans, watching with cruel satisfaction. But knowing that survivors remained, its work was not complete. It called itself Void, for that was all that remained of its home, its people, its past. And now, sensing the incredible power that had defeated Cell, Void had finally found what it had been searching for. The energy signature was unmistakable, even across the vastness of space, a power that could only belong to a Saiyan, a Super Saiyan. In the sacred world of the Kaios, the Supreme Kai felt a disturbance. A cold dread washed over him as he sensed something ancient and terrible moving through the universe with purpose. Something that should not exist, something that threatened the delicate balance of existence itself. Meanwhile, in Otherworld, Goku trained joyfully with King Kai, blissfully unaware of the approaching threat. He had been watching over his family from afar, proud of how Gohan had grown, delighted by young Goten's antics. Though he missed them terribly, he believed he had made the right choice in staying dead. Earth was safer without him. Or so he thought. On Earth, it was a beautiful spring day at Mount Paozu. Chi-Chi hung laundry outside their modest home while Goten played nearby, practicing the martial arts stances his mother had reluctantly begun teaching him. Inside, Gohan studied diligently, preparing for his entrance exams. None of them sensed the shadow that had entered Earth's atmosphere. None of them felt the malevolent presence that now fixed its attention on their tiny home, drawn by the residual Saiyan energy that lingered there. None of them knew that their lives were about to be shattered forever. In Otherworld, Goku was in the middle of a sparring match when he suddenly froze. A feeling unlike anything he had ever experienced before shot through his entire being. Not just a power level, not just a threat, but a premonition of absolute horror. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. He could sense it now, heading straight for Earth, straight for his family, a power ancient and cold, filled with a hatred so intense it made even Frieza seem benevolent by comparison. And for the first time since he had decided to remain dead after the Cell games, Goku questioned his choice. King Kai, he said, his voice unusually serious. I need to contact Earth immediately. But as King Kai moved to assist him, Goku hesitated. Gohan had surpassed him during the Cell games. His son was now Earth's protector. Would his interference only make things worse? Hadn't he stayed dead precisely to keep Earth safe from threats that might follow him? That moment of hesitation would cost him everything. On Earth, Chi-Chi paused as she pinned a sheet to the clothesline. A strange stillness had fallen over the forest. The birds had stopped singing. The wind had died away. Even the ever-energetic Goten had grown quiet, looking up at the sky with confusion in his eyes. Mommy, he said, pointing upward. What's that? Chi-Chi followed his gaze and saw a small point of darkness in the clear blue sky, a point that was growing larger by the second. Not like a cloud, not like a spacecraft, more like a tear in reality itself. Inside the house, Gohan's pencil snapped in his grip. His head jerked up, eyes wide with sudden terror as he sensed an immense power unlike anything he had ever felt before. Darker than Cell, colder than Frieza, more ancient than any energy he had encountered. He was on his feet and moving before conscious thought, chair clattering to the floor behind him. Mom, Goten, get inside, he shouted as he burst through the door. But it was already too late. The darkness in the sky expanded, a void that seemed to swallow the light around it, and from within that darkness emerged a figure. Humanoid in shape but wrong somehow, as if barely containing something far more terrifying beneath its surface, its eyes fixed on the Sun family home with terrible purpose. I have found you at last, it spoke, its voice like the death of stars, the blood of Saiyans, the legacy of those who destroyed my world. Gohan pushed his mother and brother behind him, transforming instantly into his Super Saiyan form, the golden aura blazing around him. I don't know who you are, Gohan called out, but if it's me you want, leave my family out of this. The being's response was a smile that contained no warmth, no mercy, no hint of anything resembling compassion. You misunderstand, young Saiyan. It said as it raised a hand wreathed in energy that seemed to consume the light around it. I am Void, and I have come for all of you. In other words, Goku finally made his decision. His family needed him, regardless of the consequences. King Kai, I need to return to Earth now. My family is in danger. Goku, wait, you're still dead. You can't just... But Goku wasn't listening anymore. He placed 2 fingers to his forehead, desperately searching for Gohan's energy signature to lock onto for his instant transmission. What he felt made his blood run cold. Gohan's energy was fluctuating wildly. Chi-Chi's life force was fading rapidly, and little Goten's ki was flickering like a candle in a storm. No! Goku shouted. With a desperation he had never known before, he forced his instant transmission to its limit, pushing beyond the boundaries of Otherworld itself. The last thing he heard was King Kai shouting after him. Goku, you don't understand what you're facing. That's no ordinary enemy. But the connection was lost as Goku tore through the veil between worlds, breaking rules that should never be broken, all to reach his family in time. If only he hadn't hesitated. If only he had acted the moment he sensed the danger. If only he had never decided to stay dead in the first place. But the time for if-onlys had passed. And as Goku materialized on Earth, the sight that greeted him would forever change the legendary hero, the noble-hearted warrior, the kind and merciful Saiyan who had always found a way to save the day. What awaited him in that moment would give birth to something new. Something terrible. Something that the universe would come to fear more than any villain that had come before. What if the fateful choice that changed everything wasn't made by a villain, but by a hero? The moment that sealed the dark fate of the Sun family occurred in the sacred realm of the Kais. Goku stood frozen, his mind racing between conflicting instincts. The warrior in him demanded immediate action. The father in him screamed to protect his family. But the guardian of Earth, the role he had embraced for so long, whispered doubt. King Kai, Goku said, his voice unnaturally tense. I need to get to Earth now. Something's wrong. King Kai's antennae twitched nervously. I sense it too, Goku. But remember why you stayed dead after Cell. Your presence on Earth has always attracted dangerous enemies. That simple reminder caused the fatal hesitation. Gohan is stronger than I was at his age, Goku reasoned, trying to convince himself. He defeated Cell when I couldn't. Maybe I should trust him to handle this. Perhaps, King Kai said cautiously. But this energy, it's unlike anything I've felt before. Goku closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses across the boundary between worlds. He could feel Gohan's energy, strong and steady. Chi-Chi and Goten were nearby, their familiar key signatures comforting despite the distance. But approaching them was something ancient and cold, something that made even Goku's battle-hardened spirit shudder. I should at least warn them, Goku decided, placing his hand on King Kai's shoulder to establish the telepathic connection. The seconds ticked by as King Kai struggled to make contact with Earth. Something was interfering with the connection, something that blocked even the divine communication channels of a Kai. I can't reach them, King Kai admitted, his normally jovial face creased with worry. Whatever this entity is, it's disrupting my ability to communicate across realms. But Goku's decision crystallized in that moment. Then I have to go. Dead or not, I need to protect my family. But Goku, you can't just... I don't care about the rules right now. The rare flash of anger from the normally cheerful Saiyan silenced King Kai instantly. I need to get to Earth. Even if you could break the barrier between worlds, King Kai warned, your dead body can't exist in the realm of the living without special permission from Yema. You'd be risking complete soul destruction. But Goku wasn't listening anymore. His mind was made up. Family came before rules, before cosmic order, before his own existence. I'll find a way back, he said with grim determination. I always do. With that, he placed 2 fingers to his forehead and concentrated harder than he ever had before, searching for Gohan's energy signature as an anchor point for his instant transmission. On Earth, the confrontation had already begun. Gohan stood protectively in front of his mother and brother, his golden Super Saiyan aura blazing around him like a defiant sun against the encroaching darkness. I don't know who you are, Gohan called out, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut, but this is your only warning. Leave now. The entity called Void regarded the young half-Saiyan with ancient eyes that held galaxies of hatred. Your father, it said, the words falling like stones. Son Goku, the Super Saiyan who defeated Frieza. Where is he? Gohan's stance faltered slightly at the mention of his father. My father sacrificed himself to save this planet. He's no longer here. A sound emerged from Void that might have been laughter but contained no joy. Dead? How convenient. Then he will not witness what happens next. With a speed that even Gohan's trained eyes could barely follow, Void moved. One moment it was hovering above them, the next it stood directly before Gohan, a hand outstretched toward his chest. Gohan reacted instantly, unleashing a powerful ki blast directly into the entity's face. The golden energy engulfed Void completely, and for a brief moment, Gohan allowed himself to hope. That hope died as the ki blast was not reflected or deflected, but simply absorbed. Void's form seemed to drink in the energy, growing slightly more substantial in the process. Yes, it hissed with terrible satisfaction. Saiyan energy, the very essence of those who destroyed my world. I have waited millennia to taste it again. Understanding dawned on Gohan with horrifying clarity. This wasn't just another enemy seeking a challenge or conquest. This was something older, something driven by a vengeance that had festered across ages. And his Saiyan energy was making it stronger. Mom, Gohan shouted, powering down instantly. Take Goten and run. Get to Bulma's as fast as you can. Chi-Chi, no stranger to danger after years of marriage to Goku, didn't waste time with questions. She scooped up the confused Goten and ran toward the hover car parked nearby. Void's attention shifted to the fleeing humans, the Saiyan bloodline. It must be purged completely. Your fight is with me, Gohan shouted, deliberately suppressing his ki to appear as human as possible while placing himself between Void and his family. But Void wasn't interested in honor or fair combat. With a casual gesture, it sent a wave of dark energy past Gohan, a rippling distortion that bent the very light around it. Chi-Chi had just strapped Goten into the hover car when she felt it. Cold unlike anything she had ever experienced, as if the warmth of life itself was being pulled from her body. She turned, one hand still protectively on her youngest son, and saw the darkness rushing toward them. Gohan, she screamed, her final act as a mother to alert her eldest to the danger. Gohan whirled around, horror etched on his face, as he witnessed the wave of dark energy engulf the hover car. No! He abandoned all strategy, all caution, and exploded back into his Super Saiyan form, pushing it to its limits as he flew toward his mother and brother. But even with his incredible speed, he was too late. The hover car with Chi-Chi and Goten inside was enveloped in a sphere of consuming darkness. Their screams cut through the air, piercing Gohan's heart like physical blows. Stop it! Gohan roared, launching himself at Void with the full force of his power. Void turned to face the oncoming Saiyan, extending one hand almost lazily. As Gohan's fist connected with the being's palm, he felt something impossible happen. His energy, the very power that flowed through his Saiyan blood, began to drain away, pulled into Void like water down a whirlpool. Weakness, unlike anything he had experienced since fighting Cell, washed over him. His golden aura flickered, dimmed, and threatened to extinguish entirely. With his fading strength, Gohan twisted away, breaking contact before Void could drain him completely. He fell to one knee, gasping, his transformation failing as his power level plummeted. Your energy sustains me, Void explained calmly, as if discussing something trivial. Every Saiyan I destroy makes me stronger. It is a fitting justice, don't you think? Gohan didn't respond. His focus was entirely on the dark sphere that contained his mother and brother. With horror, he realized that it was shrinking, collapsing inward upon its captive. Let them go, he pleaded, struggling back to his feet. They're innocent. Goten is just a child. There are no innocent Saiyans, Void replied coldly. Your race showed no mercy to mine. I will show none to yours. The sphere collapsed completely with a sound like the universe sighing. When the darkness dissipated, the hover car remained, but Chi-Chi and Goten lay slumped inside, their life forces barely perceptible. Gohan's anguished cry shook the mountains around them. In the realm between worlds, Goku felt it. He felt his son's pain, his wife's fading life force, his youngest child's dimming ki. With a roar that transcended dimensions, he forced his instant transmission technique beyond its limits, tearing through the veil between life and death. Rules of cosmic order shattered around him as he forced his dead soul back into the world of the living without divine permission. The pain was extraordinary, like being ripped apart and reassembled atom by atom. But Goku endured it, focused on a single thought: reach them, save them. The moment Goku materialized on Earth, he knew he was too late. The scene before him would forever be burned into his memory. Their home partially destroyed, the hover car crumpled nearby, Gohan on his knees, power depleted, reaching desperately toward the vehicle. And inside it, Chi-Chi and Goten, their life forces barely flickering. Standing over it all was a being of darkness, watching the suffering with ancient, pitiless eyes. Ah, it said. Noticing Goku's arrival, the father returns. Good, you should be here for this moment. Goku didn't waste words on the enemy. He rushed to the hover car, cradling his wife and youngest son in his arms, horrified by how cold they felt, how the very essence of life seemed to have been drained from them. Chi-Chi, he whispered, his voice breaking. Goten, hold on. Please hold on. Chi-Chi's eyes fluttered open, focusing on her husband's face with effort. Goku, her voice was barely audible. You came back. I'm here now, Goku promised, fighting back tears. I'm going to fix this. I'll get Senzu beans. I'll find Dende. Just hold on. A faint smile touched Chi-Chi's lips. Take care of our boys, she whispered. And then she was gone. Goku felt it the instant her soul departed. A piece of himself went with her, torn away forever. In his other arm, little Goten stirred once, opened eyes so like Goku's own, and then followed his mother into the void. Something broke in Goku at that moment, something fundamental and irreparable. The kind, forgiving heart that had spared Vegeta, that had shown mercy even to Frieza, shattered like glass. He gently laid the bodies of his wife and youngest son down, movements mechanical as if his body was operating without his mind's direction. Then he turned to Gohan, who had crawled toward them despite his depleted strength. "Dad," Gohan gasped, reaching for his father. "I couldn't. I tried to." Goku gathered his remaining son in his arms, feeling Gohan's life force fluttering weakly, contaminated by the same dark energy that had taken Chi-Chi and Goten. "It's not your fault," Goku said, his voice strangely calm despite the storm raging inside him. "It's mine. I hesitated. I should have come sooner." "The entity," Gohan managed, each word an effort. "It absorbs Saiyan energy, makes it stronger. I couldn't fight it." Goku held his son tighter, feeling Gohan's breathing become more labored. "Don't talk. Save your strength. I'm going to get you help." But even as he said it, Goku knew it was too late. The dark energy was spreading through Gohan's system too quickly, consuming him from within. No Senzu Bean would cure this. Not even Dende's healing powers could reverse this kind of soul-deep corruption. "Dad," Gohan whispered, his voice growing fainter. "I'm sorry, I couldn't protect them." "You have nothing to be sorry for," Goku insisted, tears finally breaking free. "You fought bravely, like a true warrior. I'm proud of you, son. I've always been proud of you." Gohan's lips curved in a small smile at his father's words. With tremendous effort, he raised a hand to Goku's chest directly over his heart. "Don't let it change you," he pleaded, somehow sensing the transformation already beginning in his father. "Remember who you are." And then, like his mother and brother before him, Gohan was gone. Goku remained kneeling, cradling his son's body, as the reality of what had happened crashed over him in waves. His family, his entire family, gone, because he had hesitated, because he had failed them when they needed him most. "How touching," Void commented from where it stood observing the scene. The legendary Super Saiyan brought low by the loss of mere attachments. Slowly, deliberately, Goku laid Gohan's body beside those of Chi-Chi and Goten. Then he rose to his feet, his back to the entity that had destroyed his world. "You know," Void continued conversationally, "I expected more of a challenge from the Saiyan who defeated Frieza, but perhaps the legends were exaggerated." Goku didn't respond. Something was happening to him, something unprecedented. The grief and rage coursing through him were triggering a transformation unlike any he had experienced before. His golden Super Saiyan aura flickered into existence around him, but there was something wrong with it. Streaks of darkness swirled within the golden light like veins of shadow pulsing with each beat of his broken heart. "What's this?" Void asked, genuine curiosity in its ancient voice. "A new form of Saiyan energy. How fascinating." When Goku finally turned to face his family's killer, Void took an involuntary step back. The Saiyan's normally kind eyes had changed. The teal color of the Super Saiyan was there, but shot through with threads of absolute darkness like cracks in reality itself. "You took them from me," Goku said, his voice eerily calm. "You took everything." "Yes," Void agreed, recovering its composure. "Just as the Saiyans took everything from me eons ago. This is justice, warrior. This is the balancing of an ancient scale." "Justice," Goku repeated, the word distorted by the power building within him. "No, this isn't justice, this is just the beginning." The transformation accelerated. Goku's golden hair darkened at the roots, black spreading upward as if his natural color was reclaiming territory. But this wasn't a return to his base form. This was something new, something terrible. The ground beneath his feet began to crack and splinter. The sky above darkened as if responding to his rage, and the air itself seemed to grow heavy, difficult to breathe, as if the very atmosphere was being crushed by the weight of his grief. "What are you doing?" Void demanded, for the first time showing concern. "This power, this isn't Saiyan energy, I recognize." "You wanted to destroy the Saiyan race," Goku said, his voice deepening, resonating with power. "You should have killed me first." The transformation completed with a shockwave that leveled what remained of the Sun family home. Where Goku had stood now hovered a being that barely resembled the kind-hearted warrior who had saved Earth so many times before. His hair, now a mixture of the deepest black and darkened gold, floated around his head like a corrupted halo. His eyes were pools of darkness with only pinpricks of teal light remaining at their centers. And his aura, once a brilliant gold, now roiled with shadows that seemed to devour the light around them. Across the planet, the Z-Fighters felt the change. Piccolo at the Lookout, Krillin at Karma House, Vegeta at Capsule Corp. All of them sensed Goku's familiar key signature transform into something unrecognizable and terrifying. "Kakarot," Vegeta whispered, his face pale with shock. "What have you become?" Void faced this new entity with growing alarm. It had consumed Saiyan energy before, had fed on the life force of entire worlds, but the power radiating from the transformed Goku was different, tainted, dangerous even to an ancient being like itself. "This changes nothing," Void declared, though with less certainty than before. "Your family is gone, your world will follow, and then I will hunt down every last trace of Saiyan blood in the universe." Dark Goku regarded the entity with eyes that held no mercy, no forgiveness, none of the compassion that had defined him throughout his life. "You're wrong," he said simply. "This changes everything." With speed that defied comprehension, Dark Goku closed the distance between them. His fist, wreathed in golden energy, shot through with veins of darkness, connected with Void's chest. The impact sent the ancient entity hurtling backward, crashing through mountains before finally embedding in the side of a distant plateau. For the first time in millennia, Void felt pain, genuine physical pain. Before it could recover, Dark Goku was there again, appearing as if from nowhere, his corrupted instant transmission leaving trails of shadow in its wake. Impossible, Void gasped as Dark Goku grabbed it by the throat. Your energy, I should be able to absorb it. Try, Dark Goku invited, his voice distorted by power and rage. Take my energy, all of it. Let's see if you can contain what I've become. Void did try. It reached out with the same power that had drained Gohan, that had consumed Chi-Chi and Goten's life forces, but as it touched the corrupted energy surrounding Dark Goku, it recoiled as if burned. What is this? Void demanded, genuine fear entering its voice for the first time. This isn't Saiyan energy. No, Dark Goku agreed, tightening his grip. This is something new, something born from what you took from me. He raised his free hand, gathering energy for a blast that would eradicate the entity completely. But as the power built between his fingers, ready to unleash destruction unlike anything Earth had witnessed before, a voice seemed to echo in his mind. Gohan's final words, don't let it change you. Remember who you are. For the briefest moment, Dark Goku hesitated, and in that hesitation, Void saw opportunity. The entity twisted free of his grip, putting distance between them with desperate speed. This world, it declared, gathering its own power, will suffer for producing such an abomination as you. Void unleashed a wave of dark energy, not at Goku, but at the earth beneath them. The attack burrowed deep into the planet's crust, spreading corruption like poison in a bloodstream. The effect was immediate. The ground began to fracture. The sky darkened further as dust and debris were thrown into the atmosphere. And all across the world, people began to scream as the dark energy touched them, draining their life force to fuel Void's desperate attack. You see, Void called to Dark Goku, who watched in mounting horror. This is the consequence of defiance. This world will die just as your family died. And it will be your fault, Saiyan. Your fault for existing. Your fault for not being there when they needed you. The words struck deeper than any physical blow could have, because they were true. If he had acted sooner, if he hadn't hesitated, his family would still be alive. Earth wouldn't be facing destruction. This was his failure. But as Dark Goku watched the planet he had protected for so long begin to die, something shifted within him. The grief remained, an open wound that would never heal. The rage still burned, a fire that would never be extinguished, but beneath it all, a resolve hardened. He had failed to save his family. He would not fail to save Earth. With grim determination, Dark Goku turned his attention to the corruption spreading through the planet. He could sense it all, every crack in the crust, every person affected by the dark energy, every life at risk. Running away, Void taunted, gaining confidence from what it perceived as retreat. I expected more from the legendary... The entity's words cut off as Dark Goku's hand closed around its throat once more, having crossed the distance between them faster than even Void could perceive. I'm not running, Dark Goku said, his voice deadly calm. I'm ending this. With his free hand, he began to draw the dark energy back out of Earth, but instead of dispersing it or attempting to purify it, he channeled it into himself, absorbing the corruption, adding it to the shadows already swirling within his golden aura. Void watched in disbelief as its attack was not just countered but consumed. What are you doing? That energy will destroy you from within. Dark Goku's only response was to tighten his grip, continuing to absorb the corruption, taking the poison meant for Earth into himself. Across the planet, the Z fighters felt the Earth stabilizing even as Goku's transformed key signature grew more terrifying by the second. On the sacred world of the Kais, the Supreme Kai watched in horror and fascination. He's saving Earth, he whispered to Elder Kai, but at what cost to himself? When the last of the dark energy had been drawn from the Earth, Dark Goku finally spoke again. You wanted Saiyan energy, he told the struggling Void. Now you'll have it, all of it. With that, he began to force his own corrupted energy into the ancient entity, not wild and uncontrolled, but focused and deliberate, like a surgeon with a scalpel. Void thrashed in his grip, trying desperately to escape. Stop, you can't do this. My purpose, my vengeance, is over. Dark Goku finished for it, just like my mercy. The transfer of energy reached its climax. Void's form began to destabilize, unable to contain the corrupted power being forced into it. Cracks appeared across its surface, golden light shot through with darkness spilling from within. What happens next? Dark Goku said, his voice cold and final, will make what you did to my family seem merciful by comparison. With those words, he released his hold on both Void and the incredible energy he had channeled into it. The result was catastrophic for Void. The entity imploded, collapsing in on itself as the corrupted energy consumed it from within. Its ancient consciousness, which had survived for millennia, was torn apart, scattered across dimensions, condemned to an eternity of fragmented awareness. Not death. Something worse. When it was done, Dark Goku hovered alone above the devastated landscape of what had once been his home. The threat was gone, Earth was safe, but the price had been too high. He descended slowly to where the bodies of his family lay. Chi-Chi, Gohan, Goten, the anchors that had kept him tethered to his humanity, now gone forever. "I'm sorry," he whispered, kneeling beside them. "I failed you. I was too late." The tears that fell from his darkened eyes sizzled against the ground, charged with the corrupted energy that now flowed through him. In the distance, he sensed approaching power levels. The Zai fighters coming to investigate the incredible energies they had felt, coming to see what had happened to their friend, their ally, their hero. They would want explanations. They would offer sympathy. They would suggest using the Dragon Balls to bring his family back. But Dark Goku knew better. Void's energy had corrupted his family's souls beyond what even Shenron could restore. They were gone in a way that defied resurrection. And he was changed in a way that could never be undone. As Piccolo, Krillin, and Vegeta appeared on the horizon, Dark Goku made his decision. He would not stay on Earth. Not like this. Not with what he had become. With one last look at his family, he placed 2 fingers to his forehead and vanished, leaving behind only destruction and questions. The ripples of that day would spread across the universe, changing the course of countless lives. The day Goku lost everything would become the day the universe gained its most unpredictable force. Neither hero nor villain, but something new, something born of grief and rage and power beyond comprehension. Dark Goku. And the universe would never be the same. The Z fighters arrived at the scene of devastation, their faces reflecting shock and horror at what they found. Piccolo landed first, his cape billowing in the wind as he surveyed the destruction. The Sun family home reduced to rubble, the bodies of Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten laid out with care, and no sign of Goku, though his transformed energy signature still lingered in the air like a thunderstorm about to break. "What happened here?" Krillin asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he fought back tears at the sight of his oldest friend's family. Vegeta said nothing, but his face was grim as he sensed the remnants of energies that had clashed here, particularly the twisted, corrupted version of Kakarot's ki that still made his Saiyan instincts scream with warning. Piccolo knelt beside Gohan's body, placing a hand on the young man who had once been his student, his friend. "Whatever did this," he said finally, "was powerful enough to kill them in a way that damaged their very souls." "What do you mean?" Krillin asked, confusion mixing with his grief. "He means the Dragon Balls won't work," Vegeta answered, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "I've seen this kind of death before on worlds Frieza purged, when life force is extracted rather than simply extinguished. Not even Shenron can bring them back." The revelation hit Krillin like a physical blow, but that means they're really gone. Forever. "Yes," Piccolo confirmed, standing again. "And so is Goku, in a way." "You felt it too," Vegeta demanded, eyes narrowing. "That power? That wasn't Kakarot, not as we know him." Piccolo nodded solemnly. Whatever happened here changed him. The Goku we knew would never have left his family's bodies, would never have disappeared without explanation. "Then we need to find him," Krillin insisted. "He needs us now more than ever." "No," Vegeta's voice cut through Krillin's determination like a blade. "What I sensed wasn't just power, it was rage, hatred. If Kakarot has truly transformed into something new, approaching him now could be dangerous even for us." "Vegeta's right," Piccolo agreed reluctantly. "We need to understand what we're dealing with before we try to reach him." As the 3 warriors debated their next move, none of them noticed the small figure watching from the shadows of a distant cliff. Beerus, god of destruction, observed the scene with uncharacteristic solemnity, Wishi's standing beside him. "Well," Beerus said finally, "this is an unexpected development." "Indeed, my lord," Whis agreed, his staff glowing softly as he tracked Dark Goku's movement through space. "It seems Son Goku has undergone a transformation that goes beyond mere physical power." "A transformation of the soul," Beerus mused, driven by grief and rage, dangerous, unpredictable. "Should we intervene?" Whis inquired, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Beerus shook his head. "Not yet. Let's see where this leads." After all, a hint of his usual smirk returned. Things were getting rather boring around here. Across the universe, in the empty void between galaxies, Dark Goku drifted. His corrupted aura surrounded him like a shroud, keeping him alive even in the vacuum of space. His mind was a storm of grief and rage and power, thoughts circling endlessly around one terrible truth: he had failed his family. And yet, beneath the darkness, something of the old Goku remained, a sense of justice, a need to protect, but now twisted, hardened, reshaped by loss, into something new. He would not return to Earth, not until he understood what he had become, not until he had mastered this new power, not until he was certain he wouldn't bring more destruction to the world he had sworn to protect. But he would not remain idle either. Somewhere out in the vast universe, other threats lurked, other beings like Void who threatened innocent lives, other forces that needed to be stopped. And if this new dark power was to serve any purpose, it would be that. As Dark Goku made this decision, his aura stabilized, the chaotic swirl of golden shadows settling into a pattern, not harmony, but purpose. The universe had lost a hero. It had gained something else entirely. Something that even the gods watched with wary eyes. Something that would shape the fate of worlds to come. The ripple effects of that fateful day, the day Goku lost everything, were only beginning. On Earth, the news of the Sun family's death and Goku's disappearance spread quickly through their circle of friends. Bulma organized a funeral that brought together everyone who had been touched by the family's warmth and heroism over the years. Even the stoic Vegeta stood in solemn attendance as 3 caskets were lowered into the earth on a peaceful hillside not far from where their home had once stood. The Dragon Balls, gathered in hope despite Piccolo and Vegeta's warnings, lay inert before the graves, confirming the terrible truth that some deaths transcended even their magical power. "I still can't believe they're really gone," Bulma whispered, tears streaming down her face as Trunks clung to her side, the young half-Saiyan boy struggling to understand why his best friend Goten would never play with him again. "And Goku?" Master Roshi asked, his normally jovial face creased with grief. "Any sign of him?" Piccolo shook his head. "Nothing. It's as if he's vanished completely from this dimension. Or he's suppressing his ki so thoroughly that even we can't sense it," Vegeta added, his arms crossed as he stared at the graves. "If he doesn't want to be found, we won't find him." "But why would he leave?" Krillin questioned. "This isn't like Goku at all." "Because," Vegeta replied with uncharacteristic insight, "he's not Goku anymore. Not entirely." When the others looked at him questioningly, the Saiyan Prince elaborated. "You all felt it. That power. That wasn't just a new Super Saiyan transformation. That was something else. Something I've never felt before in any Saiyan." "What do you think happened to him?" Bulma asked, voicing the question they were all thinking. It was Piccolo who answered, his deep voice heavy with concern. "I think grief broke something in him, something fundamental, and whatever he's become now, he's chosen to face it alone. We can't just let him go," Krillin protested. "He's our friend. He needs us." "Perhaps," came a new voice, causing everyone to turn in surprise. Supreme Kai stood at the edge of the gathering, his appearance unexpected but not unwelcome. "But right now, what Son Goku needs most is time." "You know what happened to him?" Piccolo demanded. Supreme Kai's expression was grave. "I witnessed it from my realm. What happened to Goku is unprecedented. When he forced his way back to Earth from Otherworld without permission, breaking cosmic laws in his desperation to save his family, something fundamental changed in his very soul. And when he found them dying, when he absorbed the corruption meant to destroy Earth, the Kai shook his head. He became something new, something neither the living world nor Otherworld has seen before." A heavy silence fell over the group as they absorbed this information.
Let me for helmets.
Will he ever come back?" Bulma finally asked, giving voice to their shared fear. "I don't know," Supreme Kai admitted, "but I do know this. The Goku we knew, the pure-hearted warrior who always found a way to forgive, to show mercy, that Goku died with his family. Whatever returns, if anything returns, will be different." The words hung in the air, a prophecy none of them wanted to accept, but all knew might be true. As the funeral concluded and the friends dispersed, each carrying their grief in their own way, Vegeta remained behind, standing alone before the 3 graves. "Kakarot," he said quietly to the empty air, "wherever you are, whatever you've become, don't lose yourself completely. This world still needs you," and he added with difficulty, "So do I." With that, the proud Saiyan Prince turned and walked away, unaware that his words had carried across vast distances, reaching the transformed Saiyan who drifted at the edge of a distant galaxy. Dark Goku heard the whisper of Vegeta's voice, a reminder of the connections that still tethered him to Earth despite everything. For a moment, something of his old self stirred within the darkness that had consumed him. But the memory of his family's death was stronger, the wound still too fresh, the rage still too potent. He turned away from Earth's distant light and continued his solitary journey into the unknown depths of space. Time passed differently for Dark Goku in his self-imposed exile. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months as he drifted from world to world, his corrupted power growing as he encountered and eliminated threats that would have once given even the Z-Fighters pause. Word began to spread across the galaxies of a new force in the universe. Not a destroyer like Beerus, bound by cosmic rules and balance. Not a conqueror like Frieza, driven by greed and dominion. Something else. A shadow that appeared without warning wherever chaos threatened innocent lives. A being of terrible power who eliminated threats with an efficiency that bordered on cruelty, yet never harmed those who had done no wrong. Some called him the Dark Defender, others the Shadow Saiyan. None knew his true name or origin. None recognized in this grim specter the once jovial hero who had saved Earth countless times. On a distant world called Namori, inhabited by a peaceful race not unlike the Namekians, Dark Goku intervened when space pirates descended to strip the planet of its resources. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than a minute. The pirate fleet was reduced to atoms, their leaders kept alive just long enough to feel a fraction of the pain they had inflicted on others. Where once Goku would have offered second chances, Dark Goku offered only justice, swift, terrible, and final. As he departed Namori, leaving its grateful but terrified inhabitants behind, Dark Goku sensed a familiar energy signature approaching. Powerful, divine, unmistakable. Beerus! The god of destruction materialized before him in the emptiness of space, weaves at his side as always. Son Goku, Beerus greeted him using his proper name rather than the casual nickname he had once favored. "Or should I address you differently now?" Dark Goku regarded them impassively, his corrupted aura swirling around him like a living thing. What do you want, Beerus? Want? The god of destruction raised an eyebrow. I'm simply checking on one of the more interesting developments in my universe. You've been making quite a name for yourself these past months. I'm not interested in names or reputation, Dark Goku replied coldly. I'm doing what needs to be done. Indeed, Beerus agreed, circling the transformed Saiyan with calculating eyes, and doing it quite effectively. Pirates, warlords, would-be conquerors, all falling before this new power of yours. He paused, his tone becoming more serious. Power that, I must say, feels rather similar to destruction energy. My domain, technically speaking. Dark Goku's eyes narrowed slightly. Are you here to stop me? A bark of laughter escaped Beerus. Stop you? Why would I stop someone doing part of my job for me? No, I'm merely curious about what exactly you've become, Son Goku, and what you intend to do with this new power of yours. I protect those who cannot protect themselves. Dark Goku stated simply. I eliminate threats that would harm innocent lives. Nothing more. And nothing less, was observed quietly, including the mercy that once defined you. Dark Goku's expression didn't change, but his aura darkened slightly at the angel's words. Mercy allowed that thing to kill my family. Mercy is a luxury I can no longer afford. Beerus hummed thoughtfully. Well, as long as you don't upset the balance of the universe or challenge my authority as god of destruction, I have no quarrel with you. Just remember, his eyes gleamed dangerously. There's a fine line between justice and vengeance, between protection and tyranny. I know where the line is, Dark Goku responded, his voice leaving no room for argument. Do you? Beerus questioned, genuine curiosity in his tone. The Goku I knew might have, but you, he gestured at Dark Goku's transformed state. You're something new, something still taking shape. Before Dark Goku could respond, West stepped forward, his staff glowing softly. I believe what Lord Beerus is trying to say in his typically roundabout fashion is that we are concerned about you, Son Goku, not about what you might do to the universe, but what you might do to yourself. For the briefest moment, something flickered in Dark Goku's shadowed eyes, a hint of surprise, perhaps even gratitude, quickly suppressed beneath layers of grief and determination. I appreciate the concern, he said finally, his tone marginally softer, but this is my path now. I've made my choice. As is your right, Beerus acknowledged with a slight nod. Just don't make me regret not destroying you when I had the chance. The threat was delivered with his usual casual arrogance, but both Dark Goku and Whis recognized it for what it truly was. A reminder that even in his transformed state, Goku was not beyond the reach of cosmic authority. If that's all, Dark Goku said, preparing to depart, I have work to do. One more thing, Beerus called, stopping him. Earth asks about you, your friends, they worry. The words struck deeper than Dark Goku wanted to admit. Images flashed through his mind. Krillin's unwavering friendship, Bulma's fierce loyalty, Piccolo's steady presence, Vegeta's grudging respect, connections he had severed when he left Earth, but which apparently had not forgotten him. Tell them, he began, then paused, struggling to find words that wouldn't be a lie but wouldn't invite them to search for him either. Tell them I'm doing what needs to be done, and that it's better this way. With that, he vanished, his corrupted instant transmission leaving behind a ripple of darkness in the fabric of space itself. Beerus and Whis exchanged glances. Well, that went about as well as could be expected, the god of destruction commented dryly. Indeed, my lord, Whis agreed, his expression thoughtful, though I note you didn't mention the other development on Earth. Beerus shrugged carelessly. He'll find out soon enough, and when he does, a rare smile of genuine anticipation curved his feline features. Things will get truly interesting. The development to which Whis referred was taking place on Earth even as they spoke. In the rebuilt compound of Capsule Corporation, Vegeta stood in the specialized training chamber Bulma had designed for him, facing an opponent who matched him blow for blow despite her much smaller stature. Pan, daughter of Gohan and Videl, had survived the attack that claimed her father's life only because she had been visiting her maternal grandfather, Mr. Satan, at the time. Now, at 16 years old, she was the last of Goku's bloodline on Earth, and she was determined to live up to that legacy. Again, Vegeta commanded as Pan picked herself up from the floor after a particularly brutal exchange. Your guard drops on the left when you prepare that kick. Pan wiped blood from her lip, her eyes burning with determination that reminded Vegeta painfully of both Gohan and Kakarot. I almost had you that time. Almost means dead in a real battle, Vegeta replied harshly, but without real anger. His training of Pan had begun as an obligation to Kakarot's memory, but had evolved into something more. The girl had Saiyan potential, diluted though her blood might be, and a fire that sometimes made Vegeta wonder if she might one day surpass even her grandfather. Pan settled back into her fighting stance, a unique blend of the techniques she had learned from Vegeta and the few precious lessons she remembered from her father. Let's go again. As their sparring resumed, neither noticed the figure watching from the shadows of the doorway. Bulma observed the training session with mixed emotions, pride in both her husband's unexpected patience as a teacher and Pan's remarkable progress, sorrow for the losses that had brought them to this point, and worry for the future that seemed to grow darker with each passing day. For while Dark Goku battled threats across the distant reaches of space, a new danger was stirring much closer to home, one that would soon force a confrontation none of them were prepared for. In the deepest reaches of space, beyond even Beerus' watchful eyes, fragments of Void's consciousness were slowly, painfully reforming. The entity that Dark Goku had scattered across dimensions was not truly destroyed, merely broken, dispersed, and weakened. But hatred is a powerful force across vast distances, drawn by the pull of shared vengeance. These fragments began to coalesce once more, and as they gathered, they found other energies, other entities with their own grievances against Saiyans in general, and Goku in particular. A coalition of malice was forming, a darkness to challenge even the shadow that Goku had become. And at its center, directing its growth with patient malevolence, stood a figure whose return should have been impossible. White skin, purple carapace, a tail that ended in a wicked point. Cell, not the perfect cell that Gohan had destroyed, but something new, something that had absorbed the fragmenting essence of Void as it drifted through dimensional space after Dark Goku's attack. Cellvoid, a fusion of technological perfection and ancient cosmic hatred. Yes, Cellvoid whispered to the gathering darkness around him. He thinks himself powerful now. He thinks himself beyond challenge, but we will show him true power. We will show him true loss. The entity smiled, a chilling expression on features that combined Cell's humanoid perfection with Void's ancient malice. After all, it continued, he still has one thing left to lose. On a view screen before it, an image flickered to life. Pan, training with Vegeta in the Capsule Corporation compound. The last Saiyan child, Cellvoid mused. The last piece of his legacy. When she dies, his transformation will be complete. The smile widened, and then, perhaps, he will be worthy of joining us in oblivion. Back on Earth, Pan suddenly stopped mid-attack, a shiver running down her spine for no reason she could name. Focus, girl, Vegeta barked, barely pulling a punch that would have connected with her unprotected face. Sorry, Pan muttered, shaking off the feeling of dread. I just had the strangest sensation, like someone walked over my grave. Vegeta's expression darkened, his own Saiyan instincts resonating with her unease. Perhaps that's enough for today. As they left the training chamber, neither noticed the brief flicker of something watching through the compound security system, a presence that vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving no trace of its intrusion. The stage was being set, the pieces were moving into position, and across the vast emptiness of space, Dark Goku continued his solitary crusade, unaware that the greatest battle of his transformed existence was about to begin. A battle not just for survival or power, but for the very soul of what remained of Son Goku. The ultimate confrontation was approaching, one that would determine whether the hero Earth had loved was truly gone forever, or if something of him still remained beneath the shadows of grief and rage. For within the darkness that had consumed Goku, a spark of his former self still burned, faint, nearly extinguished, but present, waiting for the right moment, the right catalyst to reignite. That catalyst was coming, and with it the answer to the question that haunted both his friends and his enemies. When everything was at stake, which would prove stronger, the darkness that had claimed him or the light that had defined him? The universe held its breath, waiting to learn what would emerge when Dark Goku faced his final test. 6 months had passed since the day Goku lost everything. 6 months of darkness, of wandering, of dispensing justice across the stars. 6 months during which the legend of the Shadow Saiyan had grown to rival even that of the god of destruction himself. On a backwater planet in the southern galaxy, Dark Goku stood amid the wreckage of what had once been the headquarters of a slaving operation that had terrorized the sector for decades. Around him, the freed captives gazed at their savior with a mixture of gratitude and fear. How could they not fear him? Even standing still, his corrupted aura writhed around him like living darkness, his eyes pools of shadow with only pinpricks of teal light remaining. The power that radiated from him made the very air difficult to breathe. And yet, he had saved them, had struck down their captors with terrible efficiency, while ensuring no innocent was harmed in the process. What manner of being could wield such destructive power with such precise control? Thank you, one of the former slaves ventured, braver than the rest. We thought no one would ever come for us. Dark Goku regarded the alien with eyes that had seen too much suffering to be moved by gratitude. Your people will arrive soon to take you home. The slavers won't trouble this sector again. As he turned to leave, the alien called after him, Wait, who are you? What should we call our savior? Dark Goku paused, considering the question. He had heard the names given to him across the worlds he had visited. Dark Defender, Shadow Saiyan, Midnight Warrior, none of them fit. None of them captured what he had become. I am no one's savior, he replied finally. I am merely what remains when everything else is taken away. With that cryptic response, he vanished, leaving the freed slaves to wonder at the nature of the being who had delivered them from bondage. In the emptiness of space, Dark Goku allowed himself a moment of exhaustion. The constant battles, the unending cycle of finding threats and eliminating them, it kept the grief at bay, kept him focused on something other than the gaping wound where his heart had once been. But it was a hollow existence, a path without end or purpose beyond the next fight, the next world to save. Sometimes, in the quietest moments between stars, he thought he could hear Chi-Chi's voice chiding him for neglecting to eat properly, or Gohan's thoughtful questions about the nature of the universe, or Goten's laughter as he played. But those moments were dangerous. They threatened to crack the armor of darkness he had wrapped around himself, to expose the raw pain beneath. So he pushed them away, focusing instead on his self-appointed mission, to ensure that no other family would experience the loss he had suffered. As he prepared to search for his next destination, a sudden flare of familiar energy caught his attention. Not hostile, not threatening, but unmistakable nonetheless. Whisters. The angel appeared before him, staff in hand, his perpetually serene expression in place. Son Goku, I trust I'm not interrupting anything important? Dark Goku regarded him with guarded suspicion. His previous encounter with Whis and Beerus had been mostly cordial, but he had sensed an underlying purpose they hadn't revealed. What do you want, Whis? Direct as always, Whis remarked with a small smile. Very well. I've come with information I believe you should have, though I am not strictly required to provide it. Something in the angel's tone made Dark Goku pay closer attention. What information? Earth is in danger, Whis stated simply. A new threat has emerged, one that specifically targets your remaining connections there. For the first time in months, Dark Goku felt something break through the wall of calm detachment he had built around himself. Concern, maybe even fear. What threat? Who's in danger? I think you know who, Whis replied, watching him carefully. The last of your bloodline, the child who carries your legacy. Pan, his granddaughter, the daughter Gohan had been so proud of, who had somehow escaped the fate that claimed the rest of their family. Dark Goku had deliberately avoided thinking about her during his self-imposed exile, knowing that attachments were weaknesses that could be exploited, that caring meant vulnerability. But he had never stopped caring, not really, he had just buried it beneath layers of grief and rage and purpose. What threatens her? He demanded, his corrupted aura flaring with renewed intensity. Something unexpected, Whis answered. A fusion of old enemies reborn through the same dark energy that transformed you. They call themselves Cellvoid. The name struck Dark Goku like a physical blow. Cell, the perfect warrior who had taken his life all those years ago. Void, the ancient hatred that had taken his family, combined into something new, something that specifically targeted Pan. Why are you telling me this? Dark Goku asked, though he was already calculating the fastest route back to Earth, already gathering his power for the journey. Why not let Vegeta or the other Z fighters handle it? Whis' expression grew unusually serious. Because they cannot. This entity was born from the same darkness that transformed you. In a sense, it is your reflection, your shadow. Only you have the power to face it, and perhaps in doing so to find what you have lost. Dark Goku's eyes narrowed. I haven't lost anything. What was taken from me can never be replaced. I wasn't referring to your family, Whis clarified gently. I was referring to yourself. Before Dark Goku could respond to this, Whis continued. The choice, of course, is yours. You may continue your current path hunting threats across the stars while Earth faces this danger alone. Or you may return, confront this Cellvoid, and perhaps discover whether the hero known as Goku still exists beneath the darkness you've embraced. With that, Whis vanished, leaving Dark Goku alone with a decision he had hoped never to face. Return to Earth, to the place where he had failed so completely, face the friends who had known him before, who would look at him with pity and concern, risk caring again, risk the pain that came with attachment, or continue his solitary path, knowing that Pan faced a threat specifically designed to destroy her as a way of completing his own destruction. The answer, in the end, was never really in doubt. With a surge of power that ripped through the fabric of space itself, Dark Goku activated his corrupted instant transmission, focused on the energy signature he had tried so hard to forget but had never truly abandoned. Earth, home, and the last person in the universe who shared his blood. At Capsule Corporation, Pan was in the middle of her most intense training session yet. Vegeta had finally deemed her worthy of facing him in his Super Saiyan blue form, a recognition of how far she had come in the months since she had begun training with him. Though only 1/4 Saiyan, Pan had achieved a transformation unlike any seen before. Not quite Super Saiyan in the traditional sense, her power manifested as a brilliant white aura shot through with gold, her black hair remaining unchanged but lifting as if in a phantom wind, her eyes shifting from black to a startling silver. Vegeta had grudgingly named it the Stellar Saiyan form, acknowledging that while different from the traditional transformations, it was no less powerful in its own way. Now, as they exchanged blows at speeds that would have been invisible to normal human eyes, Vegeta found himself genuinely challenged by his young pupil. Her style combined the technical precision he had drilled into her with an instinctive creativity that reminded him painfully of Kakarot at his best.
You're telegraphing your left hook, he barked, dodging the attack and countering with a kick that Pan barely blocked. An opponent with experience will see it coming every time.
Maybe that's what I want them to think. Pan shot back using the momentum of the block to launch into a spinning attack that nearly caught Vegeta off guard. Nearly, but not quite. The Saiyan Prince smirked as he caught her ankle mid-spin and sent her flying across the training chamber. Pan recovered in midair, landing in a crouch against the wall before launching herself back into the fray. Their sparring continued for another intense minute before both fighters froze simultaneously, their attacks halting mid-motion as they sensed a sudden, overwhelming presence materializing on Earth. What is that? Pan gasped, her stellar Saiyan aura flickering with her shock. That power, it's incredible. Vegeta's expression had gone deadly serious, his eyes fixed on the ceiling as if he could see through it to the source of the energy they both felt. Impossible, he muttered. After all this time, before Pan could question him further, the door to the training chamber burst open and Bulma rushed in, her face a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Vegeta, did you feel that? Is it really him? Him, Pan repeated, looking between the two adults in confusion. Who are you talking about? Vegeta and Bulma exchanged a glance laden with unspoken meaning before the Saiyan Prince turned to his student with uncharacteristic gentleness. Your grandfather Pan, Kakarot, has returned to Earth. The words hit Pan like a thunderbolt. Her grandfather, the legendary warrior she had heard stories about her entire life but had never met. The hero who had saved Earth countless times. The man whose grief-stricken departure had preceded her birth by mere months. But, she stammered, her transformation fading in her shock. I thought he was gone for good, that he'd never come back. So did we all, Vegeta replied grimly. But something has changed. Something has brought him back. His expression darkened further, and I'm not sure it's good news. Before Pan could process this, a new sensation washed over them. A second power level appearing suddenly on Earth. This one, as dark and cold as the first, had been overwhelmingly intense. A malevolent presence that made even Vegeta's battle-hardened instincts scream with warning. What is that? Bulma asked, wrapping her arms around herself as if suddenly chilled. Trouble, Vegeta answered shortly, already moving toward the door. Stay here, both of you. I need to gather the others. Whatever's happening, we need to be prepared. No way, Pan protested, following him. If my grandfather is really back, I'm going to meet him. Vegeta whirled on her, his expression more serious than she had ever seen it. Listen to me, girl. The Kakarot who has returned is not the man from your father's stories. He's something else now, something dangerous, and whatever has followed him to Earth is even worse. All the more reason I should go with you, Pan insisted, meeting his gaze without flinching. You've trained me for this, Vegeta. You've prepared me to face threats to Earth. Let me prove I was worth the effort. For a long moment, Vegeta stared at her, seeing in her determined eyes echoes of both Gohan and Kakarot. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Fine, but you stay behind me at all times, and if I tell you to run, you run. No arguments. Before either of them could move, however, the decision was taken out of their hands. The air in the center of the training chamber shimmered and distorted, darkness swirling like living shadow before coalescing into a humanoid form. Dark Goku stood before them, his corrupted aura casting the room in shifting patterns of gold and shadow. His eyes, once warm and full of life, now resembled black holes with only the faintest points of teal light visible at their centers. Kakarot, Vegeta breathed, instinctively moving to place himself between the transformed Saiyan and the others. Dark Goku's gaze moved past him, fixing on Pan with an intensity that made the air in the room feel suddenly heavy. So it's true, he said, his voice deeper and more resonant than the Goku of old. You survived. Pan found herself unable to speak, frozen by the sheer presence of the being before her. This was her grandfather, this dark entity with power that made her stellar Saiyan form seem like a candle beside the sun. Bulma, always the bravest of them in her own way, stepped forward. Goku, she said, using his Earth name deliberately, is it really you in there? Dark Goku's attention shifted to her, his expression softening fractionally. Parts of me, Bulma, the important parts. Why have you returned now? Vegeta demanded, still tense and ready for combat despite the apparent lack of hostility from his old rival. After all this time? Because Earth is in danger, Dark Goku replied simply. A new threat approaches, one I inadvertently created. Cellvoid, Pan said suddenly, the name coming to her lips without conscious thought, as if plucked from the air itself. Dark Goku's eyes widened slightly, the only indication of his surprise. You know of it? I've been having dreams, Pan admitted, finally finding her voice. For weeks now, a creature with Cell's face but something else looking out through its eyes. It keeps saying it's coming for me, that through me it will finish what it started. A low growl rumbled from Dark Goku's chest, his aura darkening further. Then I'm not too late. Too late for what? Vegeta pressed. What exactly is this Cellvoid, and what does it want with Pan? It wants to complete my destruction. Dark Goku answered, his voice cold with rage. When Void killed my family, it changed me, transformed me into what you see now. But the process isn't complete. As long as a part of my bloodline still lives, as long as Pan survives, something of the old Goku remains. He turned to look directly at his granddaughter, and for the briefest moment, Pan thought she saw something flicker in those dark eyes. Something warm and sad and achingly familiar, as if the grandfather she had never known was looking out at her from behind the mask of darkness. Cellvoid believes that by killing you, Dark Goku continued, it will eliminate the last anchor holding me to my former self, that my transformation into something new, something terrible, will then be complete. And is it right? Bulma asked quietly. The question hung in the air, unanswered for long seconds as Dark Goku seemed to look inward, examining truths he had avoided confronting for months. I don't know, he admitted finally, but I won't let it happen. I won't lose the last of my family. Not again. Not while I still draw breath. The declaration, spoken with such absolute certainty, sent a chill down Pan's spine, not of fear but of recognition. This uncompromising protection of family was what her father had told her about, the core of what made Son Goku who he was, beneath all the transformations and power levels. Grandfather, she said, stepping forward despite Vegeta's warning hand, I'm Pan, your granddaughter. Dark Goku regarded her with those unsettling eyes, but made no move to approach or touch her. I know who you are, Pan. You have your father's eyes, and his heart. The words, simple as they were, brought tears to Pan's eyes. She had been so young when her father died, her memories of him more impressions than concrete recollections. To hear this connection affirmed by someone who had known him so well meant more than she could express. We don't have time for family reunions, Vegeta interrupted brusquely, though his tone lacked its usual edge. If this Cellvoid is as dangerous as you say, Kakarot, we need to prepare. Gather the others. Form a strategy. No, Dark Goku countered, his voice brooking no argument. This is my fight, Vegeta. My responsibility. I won't risk anyone else. Don't be absurd, Vegeta snapped. Whatever this threat is, we face it together. That's how it's always been. That was before. Dark Goku replied coldly. Before I lost everything. Before I became this. He gestured at his transformed state. This power comes at a price, Vegeta. A darkness I contain within myself. If I fully unleash it against Cellvoid, I won't be able to guarantee the safety of anyone nearby. Not even you. So what's your plan? Bulma demanded, hands on hips in a gesture so familiar it almost made Dark Goku smile. Almost. Fight this thing alone in some isolated location. And what if you lose? I won't lose. The absolute confidence in those 3 words silenced even Vegeta's protests. It wasn't bravado or false courage. It was simple fact, stated by a being who had transcended normal limitations. At least let us help you prepare, Bulma insisted, ever practical. We have resources, information, and Pan has been training. She's stronger than you might think. Dark Goku's gaze returned to his granddaughter, assessing her with eyes that saw beyond physical appearances to the power that lay beneath. Yes, he acknowledged. I can sense it. Despite everything, Pan felt a flush of pride at the approval from this legendary warrior who happened to be her grandfather. Vegeta has been training me. He says I have potential. High praise coming from him, Dark Goku noted, the ghost of amusement flickering across his features before vanishing back into impassivity. But this isn't about potential or training. Cellvoid isn't like any opponent you've faced. It's a fusion of technical perfection and ancient hatred, both specifically targeted at our bloodline. All the more reason I should fight alongside you, Pan argued. It's my battle too, my family it wants to destroy. For a moment, Dark Goku seemed about to refuse outright. Then unexpectedly, he nodded. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps this is your fight as well. He turned to Vegeta. You've trained her well? Of course I have, Vegeta retorted, affronted by the question. She's not at our level, but she can hold her own against most threats. Cellvoid isn't most threats, Dark Goku reminded him grimly, but having Pan there might serve another purpose. He didn't elaborate, but something in his expression suggested calculations beyond simple combat tactics. Before any of them could question him further, Dark Goku stiffened, his attention shifting abruptly to the sky above Capsule Corporation. It's here, he stated flatly, sooner than I expected. The others felt it a moment later, a crushing pressure, a malevolent presence descending through Earth's atmosphere with deliberate slowness, as if savoring the approach. Everyone out, Dark Goku commanded, already moving toward the exit. We meet this thing on our terms, not its. As they emerged into the open air of the Capsule Corporation compound, they saw it, a distortion in the sky. A swirling vortex of darkness shot through with flashes of bioelectric energy, reminiscent of Cell's perfect form. From within this vortex emerged a figure that combined the worst aspects of both Cell and Void, the humanoid perfection of the former with the ancient malevolence of the latter. Its carapace was the deep purple of Cell's perfect form, but shot through with veins of absolute darkness that seemed to absorb the light around them. Its face was Cell's, but the eyes that looked out from it held the ageless hatred of Void. Son Goku! Cellvoid greeted him, its voice a disturbing harmony of Cell's smooth confidence and Void's ancient coldness. How kind of you to save me the trouble of hunting you down, and you've brought the girl as well. Perfect! Dark Goku stepped forward, placing himself between Cellvoid and the others. This ends now. Your quarrel is with me, not her. Oh, but it is with her. Cellvoid corrected him with a smile that contained no warmth. She is the last piece of the puzzle, the final link to your past that must be severed before your transformation is complete. My transformation? Dark Goku repeated, a dangerous edge entering his voice. You think you understand what I've become? Better than you do yourself, Cellvoid replied confidently. I was born from the same darkness that changed you. I am your reflection, your shadow given form and purpose. You're nothing like me, Dark Goku stated flatly. You're just another threat to be eliminated. Cellvoid laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally across the compound. Such certainty, such conviction, it will make your fall all the more satisfying. Its gaze shifted to Pan, who stood beside Vegeta, her stellar Saiyan aura flaring around her defiantly. And the girl, she has power. Yes, unusual power, but nothing that will save her from what comes next. Dark Goku's response was not in words but in action. With speed that made even Vegeta's eyes struggle to follow, he launched himself at Cellvoid, his corrupted aura blazing around him like a dark sun. The battle that ensued was unlike anything Earth had witnessed before. Two beings of immense power, both transformed by the same dark energy but in fundamentally different ways, clashed above Capsule Corporation with such force that the very air shuddered with each impact. Dark Goku fought with the ruthless efficiency that had become his hallmark since his transformation. Each strike calculated to disable or destroy. Cellvoid matched him move for move, its fusion of Cell's technical perfection and Void's ancient power making it a devastatingly effective combatant. We need to help him, Pan insisted, watching in horror and awe as the two beings exchanged blows that could have shattered mountains. Not yet, Vegeta cautioned, restraining her with a firm hand on her shoulder. Wait for an opening. This level of combat is beyond even what I've prepared you for. As if to emphasize his point, Dark Goku and Cellvoid moved their battle into the upper atmosphere, becoming little more than streaks of gold shadow and purple darkness against the blue sky. Shockwaves from their clashes rolled down to Earth in concussive waves, rattling windows across West City. They're going to destroy the planet at this rate, Bulma observed worriedly. Vegeta, can't you do something? Before the Saiyan Prince could respond, the battle abruptly returned to their level as Dark Goku was sent crashing to the ground with enough force to create a small crater in the Capsule Corporation lawn. Grandfather, Pan cried out, instinctively moving toward him before Vegeta's iron grip pulled her back. Stay back, Dark Goku commanded as he rose from the impact site, his corrupted aura fluctuating wildly. This isn't working, it's too evenly matched. Cellvoid descended slowly, its own aura a sickening mixture of Cell's bioelectricity and Void's consuming darkness. Did you really think it would be so easy? It taunted. I was created from the very power that transformed you. I know every move you'll make before you make it. Dark Goku's eyes narrowed as he assessed his opponent with new understanding. You're not just using Void's energy, he realized aloud. You've absorbed it completely, made it part of you. Just as you have, Cellvoid confirmed with a cruel smile. The difference is that I've embraced it fully, while you still cling to fragments of your former self. Its gaze shifted meaningfully to Pan. Fragments I intend to eliminate. With that declaration, Cellvoid suddenly changed tactics. Instead of re-engaging Dark Goku, it launched itself directly at Pan with terrifying speed.
No! Dark Goku roared, his corrupted instant transmission activating on pure instinct.
He materialized between Cellvoid and his granddaughter, just in time to take the full brunt of an attack meant for her. The impact sent him staggering backward, dark energy crackling around the point of contact on his chest. As predictable as ever, Cellvoid laughed. Your weakness has always been those you care about, Son Goku. Even in this new form, you can't escape that fundamental flaw. Vegeta seized the opportunity, transforming instantly into Super Saiyan Blue and launching a devastating attack of his own. Final Flash! The beam of concentrated energy struck Cellvoid square in the back, driving it away from Dark Goku and Pan. For a moment, it seemed the attack might have done some damage, until Cellvoid simply absorbed the energy, much as Void had once done, incorporating it into its own power. The prince joins the fray, Cellvoid observed, turning to face Vegeta with casual contempt. Another relic of a bygone era. You should have stayed on the sidelines, Vegeta. Now you'll share their fate. I don't think so, Vegeta retorted, settling into a fighting stance with the confidence of a warrior who had faced impossible odds countless times before. I've been waiting years for a decent fight. Don't disappoint me. As Vegeta engaged Cellvoid, buying precious seconds, Dark Goku turned to Pan. Are you alright? I'm fine, she insisted, her stellar Saiyan aura flaring around her with renewed determination. But we need a new strategy. Direct attacks aren't working. Dark Goku nodded, his tactician's mind racing through possibilities. It absorbs energy, just like Void did, but there must be a limit, a threshold beyond which it can't contain the power. So we overload it, Pan suggested, watching as Vegeta and Cellvoid exchanged a flurry of blows overhead. Not we, Dark Goku corrected her. Me, alone. Pan started to protest, but Dark Goku cut her off with unexpected gentleness. Listen to me, Pan. There's something you need to understand about what I've become. He placed a hand on her shoulder, the first physical contact he had initiated since his return. The power I wield now isn't just strength or speed. It's darkness given form, grief made manifest. If I unleash it fully, I don't know what will happen to me, or to anyone nearby. But you can't face that thing alone, Pan insisted. Even you aren't that strong. A ghost of a smile touched Dark Goku's lips so brief Pan almost missed it. You sound like your father, always worried about me. The smile faded, replaced by grim determination. But this time is different. This time, I'm not fighting to win, I'm fighting to end this, permanently. Before Pan could decipher his meaning, a sudden crash announced Vegeta's defeat. The Saiyan Prince had been swatted from the sky like an insect, his Super Saiyan blue transformation failing as he impacted the ground nearby. Vegeta, Bulma cried out, rushing to her husband's side. Cellvoid descended once more, its power visibly increased after absorbing portions of Vegeta's energy, and then there were two, it remarked casually, the corrupted hero and the last Saiyan child. How touching. Dark Goku stepped in front of Pan, his corrupted aura expanding outward with new intensity. This ends now, he stated, his voice taking on a resonance that made the very air vibrate. You wanted to complete my transformation? Be careful what you wish for. With those words, Dark Goku began to change. The corrupted Super Saiyan form that had defined him since that terrible day began to shift, to evolve. The golden elements in his aura darkened further, not to black, but to a deep, bloody crimson. His hair, already a mixture of black and dark gold, now rippled with veins of the same crimson energy. And his eyes, those pools of darkness with pinpricks of teal, now blazed with red fire at their centers. The power that radiated from him made even Cellvoid take an involuntary step back. What is this? It demanded, genuine concern entering its voice for the first time. This transformation wasn't part of my calculations. You thought you understood what I've become, Dark Goku replied, his voice deeper, more resonant, as if multiple voices spoke as one. You thought you were my shadow, but you're just a pale imitation, a fragment of the darkness I've contained within myself these past months. Pan watched in awe and fear as her grandfather's transformation completed. This wasn't just another level of Super Saiyan, this was something else entirely, something beyond traditional Saiyan evolution. If his previous form had been Dark Goku, this was something even more primal, more terrible. Crimson Goku. What have you done? Cellvoid asked, backing away further as the crimson aura expanded, reaching toward it like hungry flames. I've stopped holding back, Crimson Goku answered simply. You wanted to see my complete transformation. Here it is, the full manifestation of grief and rage and power without restraint. With that, he attacked, not with the measured, calculated strikes of Dark Goku, but with overwhelming, unstoppable force. Each blow seemed to distort the very space around it, leaving trails of crimson energy in its wake. Cellvoid tried to defend, to absorb the energy as it had before, but the crimson power that flowed from Goku's attacks wasn't just energy, it was something more fundamental, more primal. It didn't add to Cellvoid's power, it corrupted it, turned it against itself. Impossible! Cellvoid cried as cracks began to appear in its perfect carapace, crimson light spilling from within. This power, it's consuming me from inside. That's the difference between us, Crimson Goku stated as he continued his relentless assault. You embraced the darkness to gain power. I contained it, controlled it, made it serve my purpose rather than letting it consume me completely. With each word, each blow, the cracks in Cellvoid's form spread further. The entity tried to flee, to put distance between itself and the Crimson Destroyer it had underestimated so badly. But Crimson Goku was everywhere, his speed transcending normal limitations, his presence filling the very air around them. You can't escape what you've begun, Crimson Goku told the failing entity. You came to Earth to complete my destruction. Instead, you'll be consumed by it. With a final devastating combination of strikes, Crimson Goku drove Cellvoid to the ground. The impact created a crater larger than the one Dark Goku had left earlier, the Earth itself seeming to recoil from the forces being unleashed upon it. As Cellvoid struggled to rise, its form now more crimson-like than solid matter, it looked up at its destroyer with something approaching understanding. So this is the true power of grief, it mused, its voice distorting as its form continued to destabilize. Not just rage or hatred, but loss transmuted into something beyond either. You could never understand, Crimson Goku replied, gathering crimson energy between his palms for a final attack. Because you were born from hatred, not love. Your power comes from destruction. Mine comes from what was taken from me. The energy between his palms grew, not in size but in density, becoming a singularity of crimson power that bent light around it. This is for my family, Crimson Goku declared, his voice resonating with finality. For Chi-Chi, for Gohan, for Goten, and for Pan, who will live the life they were denied. With that, he released the concentrated crimson energy directly into Cellvoid's fracturing form. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Instead of exploding outwards, Cellvoid imploded, the crimson energy consuming it from within, before collapsing upon itself with a sound like the universe sighing. When the light faded and the dust settled, nothing remained of Cellvoid but a perfectly circular depression in the earth. The ground at its center crystallized by forces beyond normal comprehension. Crimson Goku hovered above this point for a long moment, his transformed state still radiating power that made the air itself seem heavy. Then, slowly, the crimson elements of his aura began to recede, the fiery red in his eyes dimming back to teal pinpricks and pools of darkness. Dark Goku descended to where Pan, Bulma, and a recovering Vegeta stood watching in stunned silence. His expression was unreadable, but the power that radiated from him was distinctly less overwhelming than before. "Is it over?" Pan asked, breaking the silence first. "Is that thing really gone?" "Yes," Dark Goku confirmed. "Not just defeated, erased. It won't be coming back." "What was that transformation?" Vegeta demanded, pushing himself to his feet despite Bulma's concerned protests. "That wasn't any Saiyan form I've ever seen or heard of." Dark Goku regarded him thoughtfully. "It wasn't a Saiyan transformation in the traditional sense. It was something else, something unique to what I've become." "And what exactly have you become, Kakarot?" Vegeta pressed, his tone somewhere between challenge and genuine concern. Before Dark Goku could answer, Pan stepped forward. "Someone who still protects his family," she said firmly. "Someone who came back when we needed him most." The simple words seemed to penetrate Dark Goku's carefully maintained distance in a way nothing else had. For a brief moment, something flickered in his shadowed eyes, a warmth, a recognition, a connection to the man he had once been. "Yes," he acknowledged quietly, "that much at least hasn't changed." Bulma, ever perceptive, saw the opening and pressed gently. "Will you stay this time, Goku, now that the threat is gone?" Dark Goku looked away, his gaze turning toward the horizon. "I don't know if I can. What I've become, it doesn't belong here. Among people, among normalcy." "Nonsense," Vegeta snorted dismissively. "Earth has never been normal, Kakarot. Not since the day you arrived in that Saiyan pod as an infant." "Besides," Pan added, moving closer to her grandfather, "you still have family here." "Me?" She hesitated, then pressed on. "Dad would want you to stay, to be part of my life, the way he couldn't be." The mention of Gohan sent a visible shudder through Dark Goku, grief momentarily overtaking his controlled expression. "Your father," he said softly, "was the best of us. Better than I ever was. Even before," he gestured at his transformed state. "Then honor his memory," Pan urged. "Stay, teach me, be my grandfather." Dark Goku looked at her, really looked at her for perhaps the first time since his return. In her determined face, he saw echoes of his son, of Chi-Chi's stubbornness, of his own unyielding spirit, the last of his bloodline, the future his family had been denied. And something shifted within him, not a transformation like the Crimson State he had unleashed against Cellvoid, but something more subtle, more profound, a crack in the armor of darkness he had wrapped around himself for so long. "I can't promise to be the grandfather from your father's stories," he warned her. "That Goku is gone, Pan. He died with your grandmother and father and uncle." "I don't need that Goku," Pan replied steadily. "I just need you, however you are now." Dark Goku closed his eyes briefly as if searching within himself for an answer. When he opened them again, the pinpricks of teal light at their centers seemed fractionally larger, fractionally warmer. "Then I'll stay," he decided. "For now, to train you, to protect you." A ghost of a smile there and gone in an instant. "To be your grandfather, as best I can." Pan's answering smile was radiant, her stellar Saiyan aura flaring briefly in response to her emotion. "That's all I ask." As the others absorbed this development with varying degrees of surprise and relief, Dark Goku turned to Vegeta. "We'll need to establish boundaries, rules. There are aspects of my power that aren't safe, even for those closest to me." Vegeta nodded in understanding. "We'll work something out, Kakarot, we always do." "And you'll need a place to stay," Bulma added, already planning in that quick, efficient mind of hers. "We have plenty of room here at Capsule Corp." Dark Goku shook his head. "No, too many people, too much activity. I need space, solitude." He glanced at Pan. "But I'll be close enough, for training, for family." The words seemed to cost him something to say, as if acknowledging this remaining connection was both painful and healing simultaneously. As the sun began to set over West City, casting long shadows across the battered landscape of the Capsule Corporation compound, a new equilibrium began to take shape. Not a return to what had been before, that was impossible, too much had been lost, too much had changed, but perhaps something new, something built from the remaining fragments of a shattered life. Dark Goku would never again be the carefree, pure-hearted warrior who had saved Earth so many times. The grief and rage that had transformed him were too deeply rooted, the darkness too thoroughly integrated into his very being. But perhaps with time, with Pan's unwavering acceptance, with the steady presence of old friends who had known him before, something of that Goku might re-emerge. Not a restoration, but a fusion. A new entity that combined the darkness born of grief with the light that had once defined him. Neither fully Dark Goku, nor the Goku of old, but something unique. Something tempered by loss, but not consumed by it. As Pan stood beside her grandfather, watching the sunset with a mixture of hope and uncertainty about what the future might hold, she made a silent promise to her father. Wherever his soul might be, she would help heal this broken warrior. Would help him find a new purpose beyond vengeance or isolated protection, would help him remember what it meant to be part of a family, part of a community, part of life itself. The day Goku lost everything had changed the universe forever, but perhaps, just perhaps, it wasn't the end of his story. Perhaps it was merely the darkest chapter in a tale that still had pages left to write. Months passed and a new rhythm established itself on Earth. Dark Goku, true to his word, remained. Not in the midst of civilization, but in a remote area where the mountains met the sea. Far from populated areas, but close enough to reach Pan when needed. The training sessions between grandfather and granddaughter became legendary among the Z fighters who occasionally observed them. Dark Goku's methods were harsher, more demanding than the Goku of old would have employed, but never cruel. And Pan thrived under his tutelage, her stellar Saiyan form evolving in ways that surprised even Vegeta. There were moments, brief and precious, when those watching might catch a glimpse of the old Goku breaking through the darkness. A spontaneous laugh when Pan mastered a particularly difficult technique. A flash of childlike excitement over a well-prepared meal. A moment of genuine warmth when interacting with old friends who had finally begun to see past his transformed appearance to the soul beneath. The shadows in his eyes never completely disappeared, and his aura retained its corrupted mixture of gold and darkness. But the teal pinpricks at the centers of those shadowed eyes grew gradually larger, warmer, more present. He would never be the same. The loss of Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten had changed him in ways too fundamental to ever fully reverse, but he was finding a new way forward, a new balance between the darkness that had consumed him and the light that had once defined him. And perhaps that was enough. Perhaps that was all anyone could ask after losing everything that mattered most. The day Goku lost everything had indeed changed the universe. But what emerged from that terrible crucible was neither hero nor villain, neither light nor darkness, but something altogether new, something that carried the weight of grief without being crushed by it, something that remembered how to protect without forgetting how to connect. Not the Goku who had saved Earth so many times before, not the dark Goku who had wandered the stars dispensing merciless justice, but something between, something beyond, something reborn from the ashes of loss. And as he stood atop a mountain peak, watching Pan soar through the clouds in her stellar Saiyan form, a small but genuine smile touched his lips. For the first time since that terrible day, the smile reached his eyes, warming those teal pinpricks in pools of shadow. It wasn't happiness, not quite. That simple, unalloyed emotion might forever be beyond his reach now. But it was something, a connection, a purpose, a reason to continue. In the end, perhaps that was the answer to the question that had haunted both his friends and his enemies. When everything was at stake, which would prove stronger, the darkness that had claimed him or the light that had defined him? Neither, and both. For in the crucible of ultimate loss, Son Goku had become something new, something that transcended such simple dichotomies, something forged in darkness but never fully consumed by it, something that remembered light without being blinded by it. Not a happy ending, those belonged to the stories of his youth, but perhaps, just perhaps, a new beginning. And for now, that was enough.